You are watching the world 24/7 on the NDTV network. I'm Parmeshwar Bawa. An action-packed bulletin lined up for you. Let's begin with the top stories you need to know. US Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick says he is very optimistic about prospects for a trade deal between the United States and India, adding he thinks trade negotiators have found a place that really works for both countries. US President Donald Trump and Chinese leader Xi Jinping will likely speak this week. The White House has said days after Trump accused China of violating an agreement to roll back tariffs and trade restrictions. Sources indicate that Prime Minister Narendra Modi is unlikely to visit Canada for the upcoming G7 summit amid frosty ties between Ottawa and New Delhi. India is yet to get an official invite and is not keen to attend currently. Russian and Ukrainian representatives met for a second round of direct talks in Istanbul, but with little progress towards ending the war. Russia presented terms during the negotiations that highlighted its refusal to compromise on its long-standing war goals. And Russia is committed to delivering the remaining units of the S-400 air defense system to India by 2025-26. This is what the country's Deputy Chief of Mission has said, highlighting that the system performed very efficiently during the recent India-Pakistan tensions. Elon Musk's Tesla is said not to be interested in manufacturing in India, which rolled out a lucrative electric vehicle policy last year to attract global auto giants to one of the biggest car markets. Our big focus, US Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick has said that he is very optimistic about prospects for a trade deal between the US and India, adding that he thinks that trade negotiators have finally found a place that really works for both countries. To quote him, Mr. Lutnick said that you should expect a deal between the United States and India in the not too distant future, and he said this at the US-India Strategic Partnership Forum's Leadership Summit in Washington. Secretary Lutnick also invited Indian businesses to Make in America. This as a delegation from America is in India to discuss issues related to the trade deal between the two nations. Listen in to the US Commerce Secretary's full remarks.
Earlier countries get a better deal. That's the way it is. So those who come in, July 4th to July 9th, there's just going to be a pile. Right? But those who are earlier, and I think India is trying hard to be one of the earlier countries, which I appreciate. But these kind of deals used to take 2 or 3 years, and we're trying to get them done in a month, which is, just not the ordinary DNA of trading relationships between countries. I think to be in a very, very good place, and you should expect a deal between the United States and India in the not too distant future, because I think we found a place that really works for both countries.
Vishal has been tracking the finer developments. He joins us live at the moment. Vishal, so an India-US trade deal is expected soon now?
Well, that seems to be the case, and this is a really positive sign coming from the US. Please note that just day after tomorrow, June 5th, that is, there will be a high-level delegation from the US arriving in India to take the talks forward. There have been several parleys between both the sides, US and India. In the last few weeks and months, there have been several delegations sent from each side. Just a few weeks ago, Foreign Secretary was there, and a few days before that, the Trade Secretary was there, the Piyush Goyal was also there. So there have been several of these meetings. So they are sort of culminating into this positive sign now, and there could be a deal any moment, because Howard Lutnick, the Commerce Secretary of US, has clearly said that countries take years to reach these kind of deals, but India and US enjoy a very close relationship, and that is why this deal could be signed soon. And he has also hailed the ties between Donald Trump and PM Modi, saying that both the leaders are some of the rare leaders in the world that are elected by a popular vote. So that gives them a positive sign, and that is what has resulted in this scenario, which could result in a deal.
Thanks so much for joining us with the breaking news information coming in. In the other crucial development we're tracking, US President Donald Trump and Chinese leader Xi Jinping will likely speak this week. This is what the White House press secretary has said, days after Trump accused China of violating an agreement to roll back tariffs and also the trade restrictions, as you're well aware. Local reports highlight that the White House has categorically said that the two leaders will likely talk this week, and this development is following the tension that flared between the two economic powerhouses over breaching tariff and trade restriction agreements. Just listen in to the full remarks from the White House.
Sure. She asked about the potential call with President Xi. I can confirm that the two leaders will likely talk this week. And as always, when there are foreign leader calls, we will provide a readout of those calls. So we'll see you guys later. Thank you.
Switching tracks, Russian and Ukrainian representatives met for a second round of direct talks in Istanbul, but with little progress towards ending the war. Delegations met for barely an hour and agreed to exchange more prisoners of war and return the bodies of 12,000 dead soldiers. Russia, in fact, presented terms during the negotiations that highlighted its refusal to compromise on its long-standing war goals. Russia's memorandum presented two options that both appear to be non-starters for Ukraine. In fact, Ukraine's defense minister, Rustem Umerov, has said that officials would need a week to review Russia's memorandum and decide on a categorical response. Meanwhile, Turkey's president, Recep Erdogan, has said that he hoped to bring together the Russian and Ukrainian leaders for a meeting with Donald Trump. We have a reaction from Volodymyr Zelensky lined up for you. Listen in.
If Russia turns the Istanbul meeting into an empty talk, there must be a new level of pressure, new sanctions, and not just from Europe. We need to work on joint sanctions at the G7 level, including with the United States and with everyone in the world who wants peace.
Meanwhile, dozens of Palestinians were shot dead by the Israeli military near an aid distribution site in Gaza, according to Palestinian officials and eyewitnesses, with Israel's military currently denying that its troops fired within or near the aid site, but some people within the Israel military confirming that this development took place a kilometer away from the aid site and before it opened. Moving on, Australian Deputy Prime Minister and Minister for Defence Richard Marles touches down in India today as part of his 4-day South and Southeast Asia tour. The Australian High Commission in its statement has said that Richard Marles' visit to India coincides with the 5th anniversary of Australia and India's comprehensive strategic partnership, which underpins our relationship and also our shared vision for the Indian Ocean. The Australian Deputy Prime Minister and Minister for Defence's visit also assumes importance, given that US Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth warned just over the weekend on Saturday at the Shangri-La Dialogue in Singapore about China's real threat in the Indo-Pacific region and urged allies to invest more in defense to secure themselves. I must inform you that this visit assumes importance, given that the US Defense Secretary had just warned on Saturday in Singapore about China's real threat in the Indo-Pacific region and also urged allies to invest more in defense to secure themselves. Richard Marles will now touch down in India today as part of his 4-day South and Southeast Asia tour. Meanwhile, Prime Minister Narendra Modi is unlikely to visit Canada for the upcoming G7 summit amid frosty ties between Ottawa and New Delhi. The G7, as you know, is an informal grouping of the most industrialized economies in the world, so France, Germany, Italy, the United Kingdom, Japan, the United States, and Canada. It's also attended by the European Union, the IMF, the World Bank, and the United Nations, since they are invited. But sources say India is yet to receive any official invitation for this summit, which is being hosted by Canada from the 15th till the 17th of this month. You must note that the Indian side has said that it's not inclined to attend. This is what our sources have informed us, further stating that the relationship must improve before any such high-profile visit takes place. You must note that South Africa, Ukraine, and Australia have reportedly accepted invitations from Canada. We are waiting to get in touch with my colleague Maha Siddiqui, who will provide clarity on whether India has received an invitation for the upcoming G7 summit, supposed to take place in another 15 days. But sources indicate that Prime Minister Modi is unlikely to visit Canada for this upcoming G7 summit amid frosty ties between Ottawa and New Delhi. As far as sources and the information disseminated from them is concerned, they've clearly said that India is yet to receive any official invitation for the summit, which is being hosted, as I mentioned, from the 15th till the 17th of June. In fact, India has clearly said that it is not inclined to attend. This is what our sources have informed us, further stating that the relationship must improve before any such high-profile visit actually takes place. My colleague Maha Siddiqui now joins us live from Vancouver at the moment with a quick update. Maha, we're given to understand that South Africa, Ukraine and Australia have reportedly accepted invitations from Canada. But as we speak, uncertainty remains over Prime Minister Modi's visit?
That's absolutely correct, because Ottawa has not revealed the names yet of the countries that they have invited for the G7 summit. So these confirmations are coming from the countries themselves. For instance, South Africa, we know that Cyril Ramaphosa might not be able to attend it, and that's why this information was revealed. In Mexico, they have also got an invitation to attend the G7 summit, is what is known, apart from Ukraine, as you have already mentioned. So these are the countries whose names are doing the rounds, which have been invited for this year's G7 summit, apart from a couple of East European countries like Poland as well. But there is no clarity yet on whether the invitation has been extended to India as well. And this is, for many, rather surprising, considering that India has been part of the G7 summit as the fourth largest economy of the world for the last 5 times. However, one must remember that the prerogative to invite these countries is of the host country. And in this case, we have seen that there has been diplomatic friction between Canada and India. And many are linking this to that the fact that Canada may not have extended the invitation to India at all this year to be part of the G7 summit, despite it's not just its economic clout at the moment, being the fourth largest economy, but also a voice of the global south. We also know that some of the Sikh-related organizations, for instance, the Sikh Federation, the World Sikh Organization, made representations in Ottawa asking for the government to not invite Prime Minister Modi. And they have said that economics should not be put before the fact that, as per them, that there has been lack of cooperation from India's part on the investigations into the killing of Hardeep Singh Nijjar. So this is a highly diplomatic issue that is coming in the way of India's presence in the G7 summit this time around. For the last 5 times from 2019 onwards, India has been at the high table of the world's most powerful economies as a guest country. It started off with India's presence at the summit in France, in Biarritz, and after that continued in Germany, in UK, and the latest being last year in Italy, where India was invited. The host nation invites anywhere between, as we have seen in the recent past, 4 to even as many as 9 countries, as invitee countries, as guest countries, and India has been part of those in the past.
Maha, as always, thank you so much for joining us with the latest. Well, in other news, Russia is committed to delivering the remaining units of the S-400 air defense system to India by 2025-26. The country's deputy chief of mission in India has said, highlighting that the system performed very efficiently during the recent India-Pakistan tensions. Russia's deputy chief of mission in India, Roman Babushkin, also hinted at expanding bilateral cooperation with India in air defense and anti-drone systems. Mr. Babushkin also provided an update on a possible visit by the Russian Foreign Minister, Sergei Lavrov, to India. And to quote him, he said, "The exact dates are not yet finalized, but it can happen anytime soon. We expect this month." And with that, let's turn our attention now to the United Kingdom, where Keir Starmer has announced a major boost in defense spending. Britain has unveiled radical defense overhaul to meet the new threats. The UK is actually turning to tech, to drones, to data for modern military. The British Prime Minister has clearly said that we are moving to war-fighting readiness because Britain cannot ignore the threat that Russia poses. So UK is to build a dozen new nuclear-powered attack submarines. Up to 12 attack submarines are to replace the current fleet of 7.
First, we are moving to war-fighting readiness as the central purpose of our armed forces. When we are being directly threatened by states with advanced military forces, the most effective way to deter them is to be ready. And frankly, to show them that we're ready, to deliver peace through strength.
Meanwhile, turning to home ground, Tesla is not interested in manufacturing cars in India, but is keen to have showrooms to sell its vehicles, Heavy Industry Minister H.D. Kumaraswamy has said. Officials say the EV giant's plans is focused on importing cars into the country amid indications that Tesla is eyeing concessions under the India-US bilateral trade agreement to sell cheaper cars in India without any commitment to manufacturing locally. Listen in to what H.D. Kumaraswamy, the Heavy Industries Minister, had to say, followed by Tushar's report.
Government of India wanted to encourage big global car makers to manufacture electric vehicles in India. This part of India's push for clean energy, local jobs and economic growth. Mercedes-Benz, Volkswagen, Skoda, then Hyundai, Kia, all these companies already shown interest. Tesla, we are not actually expected from them. They have only to start 2 showrooms. They are not interested in manufacturing in India.
According to India's EV policy, an approved applicant has to invest $500 million to set up a local plant in India within 3 years. This plant has to achieve 30% localization in 3 years and 50% localization in 5 years. The approved applicant, again, in lieu of this investment, will enjoy a reduced customs duty of 15% on 8,000 imported cars every year for a period of 5 years. The duty foregone will be actually balanced against the investment that the company is going to make in India. This investment, the $500 million, has to be backed by a bank guarantee. The company has also got to roll out local operations in India in the way of retail outlets as well as exporting from India as well. So essentially, an approved applicant can sell in India as well as export from here as well. Now, this comes on the back of Hyundai actually making its intentions known that it's looking to make India an EV manufacturing hub. Mercedes-Benz has been in India for decades, and Volkswagen too is stepping up its operations in India.
As always, news and updates continue right here in a moment after this very short commercial break. Do stay tuned. Well, Donald Trump's administration has filed an emergency request asking the US Supreme Court to let it move forward with wide-ranging layoffs and agency closures. This request comes as the lower court has put the brakes on the administration's efforts to reduce federal jobs. Well, switching tracks, the capital in India was overtaken by a burst of color, a burst of cheer, and unapologetic pride. The spotlight was on personal journeys of acceptance, policy-level inclusion, and workplace equality. NDTV brings you a glimpse as Pride Month kicks off.
None of us are free until all of us are free. These are the words by the trailblazing queer rights icon Marsha P. Johnson. June of every year is celebrated as the International Pride Month. It is to commemorate the protests held by members of the LGBTQ community against a police raid that took place at the Stonewall Inn in New York City on the 28th of June, 1969. Queer people and allies all over the world don their best and most fabulous selves and participate in multiple events and marches celebrating their most authentic selves. You will start noticing your go-to brands change their logos and decor to rainbow colors. It is to show support to the LGBTQIA+ community, a support that I believe should be all year around and not just in June. Pride Month is also a reminder to be more inclusive and accepting of the queer people, as even today many parts of the world still criminalize and discriminate against gays, lesbians, bisexuals, and transgender and queer folks. In India, we have come a long way, thanks to our gay rights activists and icons who continue to fight to make our society and country a more accepting space. Whether it was the landmark verdict of striking down Section 377 or the Transgender Persons Act 2019, our country has made significant advancements and progress to break down the stigma. But still, we have a long way to go. And it is not just up to our activists and lawmakers to bring this change. It begins with you and me, to be more open and accepting and respectful towards our queer friends, colleagues, family members, and neighbors. And thus, June every year is colorfully marked as Pride Month, with rainbows, unicorns, feathers, or not, however you want to express it, expressing the spirit of love, equality, and freedom towards ourselves and others. As pop star and queer icon Lady Gaga said, same DNA, but born this way.
Meanwhile, what do Bollywood, biryani, and the Northern Lights have in common? Well, as of today, Air India and Iceland Air. In a move that's got both frequent flyers and curious explorers buzzing, Air India and Iceland Air have signed a code share agreement, which is actually fancy aviation speak for let's team up and make travel easier. And this announcement dropped at the 81st International Air Transport Association annual AGM in New Delhi. But I'll tell you what the deal is. If you are in India and have ever dreamed of chasing the Northern Lights, you can now book a ticket with Air India and hop onto an Iceland Air flight from major European hubs like London, Frankfurt, Paris, Amsterdam, and Copenhagen, all under one booking. No confusing airline switches, no check-in headaches, just pack your thermal wear and go. And the reverse, well, Icelanders and other European tourists can now use Iceland Air to book tickets directly to Delhi and Mumbai, where Air India takes over, offering direct flights into India's cultural core. So whether it's the Taj Mahal, Kerala's backwaters, or a bowl of spicy chaat, they've got easier access than ever before. This partnership covers 15 routes across India and Europe. So yes, this isn't just about volcanoes meeting Vindhyas. It's about building a seamless air bridge between India's booming tourism economy and Iceland's growing appeal among Indian travelers. But it's not just about bucket lists. It's also about trade, culture, and a quiet aviation strategy at play. So what does this mean for you? Well, shorter travel times, simpler bookings, and possibly cheaper fares. Slipping into a quick break, news and updates continue in a moment. Thanks for watching.